My dear friends, imagine for a moment that you are a ship sailing on the vast ocean of life. The winds of circumstance blow, the waves of experience rise and fall, and at the helm of this ship stands you, the captain. Within this ship is a tempestuous crew, a rowdy bunch we call emotions. They're a lively lot, aren't they? Joy, sorrow, anger, fear, love, each one clamoring for attention, each one trying to seize control of the wheel. Developing emotional intelligence requires self-reflection. It's about taking the time to examine your feelings, to understand where they come from and how they influence your behavior. This isn't always a comfortable process. It can be like cleaning out the hold of your ship. You might uncover some things you'd rather not see. But this self-awareness is crucial if you want to navigate your emotional sea skillfully. Why do I react so strongly to certain situations? What past experiences might be influencing my current emotional responses? Are my emotional reactions helping me reach my goals, or are they holding me back? For instance, you might realize that your tendency to avoid conflict stems from childhood experiences of heated arguments in your family. Or you might recognize that your drive for perfectionism, while I often productive, sometimes leads to unnecessary stress and anxiety. These insights don't immediately change your emotional responses, but they give you the awareness to start making different choices. As you engage in this self-reflection, you'll likely encounter some uncomfortable truths. You might realize that some of your emotional habits are not serving you well. This is where inner strength and resilience come into play. Inner strength isn't about suppressing your emotions or putting on a brave face. It's about having the courage to face your feelings honestly, to acknowledge them without being controlled by them. It's about being willing to sit with discomfort, to feel the fear and do what needs to be done anyway. Resilience, on the other hand, is the ability to bounce back from emotional setbacks. It's like having a well-built ship that can weather storms and come out intact on the other side. You build resilience by facing challenges, learning from them, and continuing to move forward despite setbacks. For example, imagine you've just faced a significant rejection. Perhaps a job application you were excited about or a romantic interest who didn't reciprocate your feelings. Your immediate emotional response might be one of disappointment, sadness, maybe even anger or self-doubt. These feelings are natural and valid. Inner strength allows you to acknowledge these feelings without being overwhelmed by them. Resilience helps you to learn from the experience, to adjust your approach if necessary, and to try again rather than giving up. Now, as we learn to manage our own emotions more effectively, it's crucial that we don't lose sight of the importance of empathy. Emotional control doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. Rather, it's about finding a balance between understanding others' emotions and maintaining our own emotional equilibrium. Think of empathy as the ability to tune into the emotional frequencies of those around you. It allows you to sense the undercurrents of feelings in a conversation, to understand the emotional weather of a room. This awareness is invaluable in navigating social situations, in building strong relationships, and in leading others effectively. However, empathy without emotional control can lead to becoming overwhelmed by others' feelings, to losing your own emotional bearings. It's like a ship that's so focused on the movements of other vessels that it loses sight of its own. The key is to cultivate what we might call grounded empathy, the ability to understand and connect with others' emotions while maintaining your own emotional center. This allows you to be supportive and understanding without being swept away by every emotional current around you. For instance, imagine a friend comes to you in distress, pouring out their worries and fears. Empathy allows you to truly listen, to understand their emotional state. But emotional control helps you to offer support without becoming anxious yourself, to provide a steady presence rather than being pulled into their emotional turbulence. As we navigate these emotional waters, it's crucial to remember that we always have a choice in how we respond to our feelings. This power of choice is perhaps our most valuable tool in not letting our emotions take over. You see, between the stimulus of an event and our response to it, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our reaction. Our feelings may arise automatically, but our actions in response to those feelings are a choice. For example, when someone cuts you off in traffic, the feeling of anger may arise instantly. But you have a choice in how you respond to that anger. Will you let it take over, leading you to honk your horn or make aggressive gestures? Or will you take a deep breath? Remind yourself that the other driver's actions likely weren't personal and choose to let it go? This power of choice extends to all areas of our emotional life. When you feel the urge to snap at a loved one, you can choose to pause and respond more kindly instead. When you feel afraid to take on a new challenge, you can acknowledge the fear and choose to act courageously anyway. Exercising this power of choice consistently requires practice. It's like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Start with small, everyday situations. Each time you consciously choose your response rather than reacting automatically, you're strengthening your ability to navigate your emotions skillfully. Now, let's discuss some practical strategies for emotional regulation. These are like the tools and techniques a skilled sailor uses to navigate through various weather conditions. One powerful technique is reframing. This involves consciously changing your perspective on a situation. For instance, instead of seeing a setback as a failure, you might reframe it as a learning opportunity. This doesn't change the external circumstance, but it can dramatically alter your emotional response. Another useful strategy is the practice of labeling your emotions. Simply putting a name to what you're feeling. I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling anxious, can help to reduce the intensity of the emotion. It's like shining a light on a shadow. Once you clearly see what you're dealing with, it often becomes less overwhelming. Deep breathing is another simple yet effective tool. When you're in the grip of a strong emotion, your breathing often becomes shallow and rapid. By consciously slowing and deepening your breath, you can activate your body's relaxation response, helping to calm both your body and mind. You might also find it helpful to practice emotional distancing. This involves mentally stepping back from your emotions and observing them as if from a distance. You might ask yourself, what would this situation look like to an outsider? Or how will I feel about this a week from now? This can help you gain perspective and respond more objectively. Remember, the goal of these strategies isn't to eliminate your emotions. Emotions are a vital part of the human experience. The aim is to manage them effectively to prevent them from hijacking your thoughts and actions. As we work on managing our emotions, it's important to address the fear of negative emotions. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that certain feelings, anger, sadness, fear, are bad or wrong. As a result, we try to suppress or avoid these emotions, which often only makes them more powerful. All emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, have a purpose. Anger can motivate us to address injustice. Sadness can help us process loss and connect with others. Fear can alert us to potential dangers. The key is learning to experience these emotions without being controlled by them. It's about acknowledging their presence, understanding their message, but not letting them dictate your actions. For instance, if you feel angry about a situation at work, don't try to pretend the anger doesn't exist. Acknowledge it. I'm feeling angry right now. Then try to understand what this anger is telling you. Is there a boundary that's been crossed? A value that's been violated? Once you understand the message, you can choose how to address the situation constructively, rather than lashing out in anger. As we conclude our discussion, I want to emphasize that mastering your emotions is not about becoming an unfeeling automaton. It's about developing the wisdom to navigate your emotional seas skillfully, to harness the power of your feelings without being captured. Imagine once again that you are the captain of your ship. The winds of emotion still blow, the waves of feeling still rise and fall. But now you stand confidently at the helm. You read the emotional weather, you adjust your sails, you steer your course with purpose and skill. You understand that your feelings are not commands to be obeyed, but valuable information to be considered. You know that you are not at the mercy of your emotions, but have the power to choose your response. You recognize that true strength lies not in the absence of feelings, but in the ability to feel deeply while still maintaining your course. This, my friends, is the art of not letting your feelings take over. It's a lifelong practice, a continuous journey of self-discovery and growth. There will be storms and calm seas, moments of struggle and moments of triumph. But with each challenge you face, with each emotion you navigate skillfully, you become a more capable captain of your own life. Pay attention to your emotions, understand them, learn from them, but don't let them take the helm. You are the captain of your ship, the master of your fate. Navigate wisely, sail boldly, and may your journey be rich with meaning and purpose. Thank you, my friends. May you find strength in the storms and joy in the journey as you learn to master the seas of your emotion. Now, you might be wondering, what's wrong with that? Shouldn't we let our feelings guide us? And indeed, there's a certain romance to the idea of being led by our hearts or following our passions wherever they may take us. Would you entrust the navigation of your ship to a crew that changes its mind with every shifting wind? Would you let the fear of a storm drive you off course, or the excitement of a sunny day lure you into treacherous waters? You see, our feelings are powerful forces. They color our world, inspire our greatest works of art, and connect us to one another in profound ways. But they are also fickle, often irrational, and when left unchecked, can lead us far astray from our true course. Consider for a moment the last time you let your feelings take over. Perhaps it was a burst of anger that led you to say things you later regretted. Or maybe it was a moment of fear that held you back from seizing a golden opportunity. In that moment, did you feel in control, or did you feel as though you were being tossed about by emotional waves? Your rational mind merely a passenger along for the ride. This, my friends, is the crux of our discussion today. How do we navigate the stormy seas of our emotions without letting them capsize our ship? How do we harness the power of our feelings without becoming enslaved by them? To answer these questions, we must first understand the nature of our feelings. You see, emotions are not facts. They are not infallible guides to truth or right action. Rather, they are responses, complex chemical and neurological reactions to our perceptions of the world around you. Imagine you're walking in a forest and you see a long cylindrical shape on the ground. In an instant, your body floods with fear, a snake. Your heart races, your palms sweat, you're ready to flee. But upon closer inspection, you realize it's merely a stick. The fear subsides, replaced perhaps by relief or even amusement at your mistake. What changed? Not the object itself, but your perception of it. Your initial emotional response was based on incomplete information, on a split-second interpretation that turned out to be correct. This is a crucial point, my friends. Our feelings, intense and real as they may be, are often based on our interpretations of events rather than on the events themselves. And these interpretations can be flawed, colored by our past experiences, our fears, our biases. Does this mean our feelings are worthless? Far from it. They are valuable signals, alerting us to pay attention, to look closer, to consider what might be happening beneath the surface. But they are not infallible commands to be obeyed without question. The difference between feeling and being. You may feel angry, but you are not anger itself. You may feel afraid, but you are not fear incarnate. Your feelings are a part of you, but they do not define the whole of who you are. Imagine a vast sky. Within this sky, clouds form and dissipate, some dark and stormy, others light and wispy. These clouds are like our feelings, ever-changing, sometimes overwhelming, but ultimately transient. And you are the sky itself, vast, open, capable of containing all these shifting emotions without being limited by any one of them. When we forget this distinction, when we identify too closely with our feelings, we risk being swept away by them. We say things like, I am angry instead of I feel angry, as though the emotion has consumed our entire being. We let temporary states dictate permanent decisions. We become reactive rather than responsive, slaves to our emotional whims rather than masters of our own ship. But how do we maintain this distinction in the heat of the moment, when our emotions are running high? This is where the practice of mindfulness comes into play. Mindfulness is simply the act of paying attention to the present moment without judgment, about observing our thoughts and feelings as they arise, rather than immediately reacting. The next time you feel a strong emotion welling up, try this pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Notice the physical sensations in your body, the tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, the tension in your muscles. Observe the thoughts racing through your mind. But do all this as a witness, not as a participant. You're not trying to change or suppress the emotion, merely to observe it with curiosity. This simple act of mindful observation creates a space between stimulus and response. It allows you to step back and say, I notice that I'm feeling angry, rather than immediately lashing out in anger. It gives you the chance to choose your response rather than being controlled by your initial reaction. As you practice this mindfulness, you'll begin to recognize your emotional triggers, those situations, words, or events that consistently provoke strong emotional responses in you. Perhaps it's a certain tone of voice that sets you on edge, or a particular type of comment that never fails to hurt your feelings. Recognizing these triggers is crucial because it allows you to prepare for them. It's like knowing where the stormy waters are likely to be as you navigate your ship. You can't always avoid these areas, but you can brace yourself, adjust your sails, and navigate through them more skillfully. For instance, let's say you've noticed that you tend to feel insecure and defensive when receiving feedback at work. Armed with this self-knowledge, you can prepare yourself before your next performance review. You might remind yourself that feedback is an opportunity for growth, not a personal attack. You could practice deep breathing techniques to stay calm during the conversation. You're still likely to feel some emotional discomfort, but you're no longer at the mercy of these. You're prepared, you're aware, and you're in control. Now, as we learn to observe our emotions and recognize our triggers, we must also cultivate the habit of engaging our reason. Emotions are quick and intuitive, but reason is deliberate and analytical. Both have their place. But when it comes to making important decisions or navigating complex situations, reason must take the helm. Think of your rational mind as a ship's navigator, equipped with maps, instruments, and a clear view of your destination. Your emotions, on the other hand, are like the weather, important to consider, certainly, but not to be blindly followed. When you feel a strong emotion pushing you to act, pause and ask yourself some questions. Is this feeling based on an accurate understanding of the situation? Is the action I'm considering aligned with my values and long-term goals? What might be the consequences if I act on this feeling? For example, imagine you're in a heated argument with a loved one. Your anger is urging you to say hurtful things to win the argument at any cost. But your reason, if you engage it, might remind you of the importance of this relationship, of the regret you'd feel later if you let your anger take control. It might suggest taking a break to cool down or finding a way to express your feelings without attacking the other person. This is not to say that we should always suppress our emotions in favor of cold logic. Rather, it's about finding a balance, about using our reason to channel our emotions constructively rather than letting them run wild. As we practice this balance between emotion and reason, we begin to develop what psychologists call emotional intelligence. This is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as to recognize and influence the emotions of others. Emotional intelligence is like having a skilled crew to help you navigate your ship. It allows you to read the emotional weather, to understand the currents of your own feelings and those of the people around you. With this understanding, you can adjust your course more effectively, responding to emotional situations with wisdom and grace, rather than being tossed about by every emotional storm.